nervous system regulation and how it acts like a symphony. Nervous system regulation has become a hot, trending topic in the last several years. And why? Well, maybe it has something to do with the elevated levels of chronic stress, chaos, turbulence, uncertainty in our world in the last several years. But really, chronic stress has been going on for a really, really long time. Uncertainty is something that's part of being a human being. Unpredictability, chaos, it's always been around. But this recognition of nervous system regulation has come to the forefront, and rightfully so. So before we get into nervous system regulation and how it acts like a symphony, let's break down what nervous system regulation actually means. So for the purpose of this video, we'll talk about the autonomic nervous system. We've got the central nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has two main branches, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic is what's known as the fight or flight, freeze, fawn, survival. It tends to be a bit more invigorating, stimulating, activating. The parasympathetic is typically known as the rest, repair, digest, restoration, more of the calming, grounding branch of the nervous system. There's no right or wrong answer. We need both as part of being a human being. And often, both of those branches are happening at the same time in many, many cases. So regulation is really about what the body needs in that particular moment or that particular time. So if a car swings out in front of you, or a deer runs across your car, or now you've got this elevated, heated argument with somebody, or you are out hiking and you see a mountain lion, or something shocking, you just got some upsetting, devastating news, that sympathetic nervous system kicks on as a way to protect you, as a way to help you defend yourself, run, fight, hide, or withdraw in some cases, whatever you need to do for survival purposes. And in the case of the parasympathetic, we need that to digest our food. We need that to sleep at night, to rest, to nap, to meditate. When we are with people that we trust, we're in a community of where we feel a sense of belonging, any kind of emotional, physical intimacy. There's a million different circumstances here. And so the regulation piece is really what the body needs to do to get back to homeostasis, get back to balance, get back to what it can, so that it can function in a normal way, so that your body can repair itself, so the body can continue to regenerate new cells, so the body can function the way that it was designed. So if we are in the sympathetic nervous system dominant state for a long period of time, or even a brief period of time, we must go back into that balance, the dance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And the body is incredibly intelligent and has this innate wisdom. And so it knows what to do. It knows exactly what to do. And everything that it's doing is to protect you, whether you like it or not, or whether you agree with it, or whether you have pain or symptoms. Your body is constantly trying to recalibrate and restore itself for your benefit, because the body wants to survive. The body wants to be safe, doesn't like a lot of crazy, erratic changes. It wants to go back to that state of stability, security, and predictability. And so dysregulation would be where either you're in a state of sympathetic overactivation for too long. There's not enough of the downtime. There's not enough of the calm, grounding, restorative, repairing state. It's too often in the sympathetic and not enough repair, grounding time. And that causes excess inflammation. It causes disease. It causes symptoms. It causes this overwhelming stress overload. It starts to break down the body. It starts to cause all the body systems to get out of balance and can lead to illnesses, certain diagnoses. And it's very, the body is not made to be in that sympathetic nervous system dominant state over a long period of time. We're just not designed that way. And so illness and disease typically sets in, symptoms temporarily, and then eventually the cells can't withstand that. And that's when problems start to happen. So when it comes to the nervous system regulation functioning as a symphony, think about the nervous system, which really involves our brain and all of our nervous system, our nerve cells, neurons throughout the body, and how that cascade of communication is constantly happening between the brain and the body, and actually between the brain and the body, and actually between the body back to the brain. So there's this constant communication, and actually there's quite a bit of research that there's even more communication between the heart and the brain. There's actually more of a driving force, driving level of communication between the heart, electrical system, and the brain. So when it comes to the nervous system regulation as a symphony, your nervous system is really the conductor of the symphony, and all your body systems, all of your organs that make up the body systems, all of your cells that make up each organ, that make up an organ system, is the instrument. Each one is an instrument that is part of this symphony. Think of it as like an orchestra that has to function in resonance. It has to function in harmony to create a beautiful piece, a beautiful song, beautiful music, and it has to work together, because if one is off, the other is off. And this is actually regardless of the nervous system. So if your gut is off, your skin's going to be off. If your nervous system is off, your hormones are going to be off in some way. So everything is all connected. But the nervous system, the brain and the nerve cells, and the nervous system, peripheral nervous system, central nervous system, all of that is communicating with the rest of your body. But the nervous system is kind of the main switchboard conductor, and all the organ systems are the instruments, the bass, the cello, the violin, the piano, and so forth. And so it all has to work together, and that creates healing for the body. So let's break this down with regard to your respiratory system, your lungs, which is your lower respiratory system, your upper respiratory system, which is your nasal passages, your sinuses. And so your breath is powerful in helping to reset the nervous system. So our breathing is both involuntary and voluntary. So it's one of the things that we have to breathe to survive, and that is the unconscious part of it. But the voluntary part of it, we can control that, and that's probably the fastest, most efficient way to shift our nervous system into a more regulated state, because we can slow our breathing. When we're stressed, we tend to breathe very fast. When we slow our breathing, breathe in and breathe out, we can often slow down the nervous system and bring it back into more of that parasympathetic state. So we can control that through our breathing, which is pretty phenomenal. That's why breathing is often recommended during meditations, or when you're feeling scared or stressed for some reason, or uncertain. Taking those long inhales and exhales is one way to reset the nervous system. Another aspect of the nervous system regulation is the heart. I mentioned this a little bit ago, and how the heart is the cardiovascular system, which is the heart and the blood vessels. We've got our veins, we've got our arteries and capillaries, obviously from head to toe, and that is carrying oxygen. So as we're breathing in and out, we're increasing the oxygen flow to the body through the circulatory system. that goes to our brain and goes to our feet, goes to every organ and organ system throughout the body. So that's one way. The blood carries oxygen, it carries nutrients, it carries all the essential ingredients, so to speak, to help our body to heal. And so as we reset our respiratory system and our nervous system, our heart is also being reset as well. And so if we're stressed and feeling chaotic or frenetic, our heart is often beating faster and our blood pressure often tightens and the rhythm of the heart tends to get off, arrhythmia. So that is part of that nervous system regulation, is regulating our cardiovascular system, which has this very tight connection with the nervous system, the brain, and the nerve cells as well. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, there is that more profound, and actually the heart has its own electrical system. I mean, the whole body is one big entire magnificent electrical system. The heart itself has its own electrical system. And so that communication with the brain is powerful. It's more dominant than the brain to the heart. And outside of our body, we have this electromagnetic field that is emanating from the heart. So when we're stressed and frenetic, that field is getting sensed by other people, by animals, plants, other beings, other sources of energy can sense that. And when you're calm and relaxed and feel like you're in that grounded, peaceful state, other living beings can pick that up as well. So when it comes to our digestive system, that is another, it's called the second brain, the gut brain connection, or the gut brain connection. Our gut is filled with this massive enteric system of nerves and gut microbiome and neurotransmitters and digestive enzymes and lots of other incredible, blood vessels. And so by making sure that our gut is healthy, I mean, we know that our brain controls the functioning of our gut, but when our gut is healthy, then that also communicates back to the brain, but it also communicates with the rest of the body. So if our gut is off, we have constipation, we have an infection, we're feeling stressed, and now our gut is off, and now we have stomach pain, we have stomach ulcer, all sorts of other condition that is going to affect the nervous system in a way that keeps us in that fight or flight state. And the great thing about breathing, calming ourselves either through breath work, meditation, connecting with somebody, going out and walking in nature, eating nourishing foods, that's also going to be very calming to the digestive system, but also calming to the nerves that are located throughout the gut and the body as well. When it comes to our endocrine system, which is part of our hormones, and that's a whole other massive conversation in itself. We've got our thyroid hormones, we've got our adrenal hormones, our reproductive hormones, we've got digestive hormones, and lots of other hormones throughout the body. And when we are in a dysregulated state, that will interfere with that hormonal balance, especially if you're a woman who is having a menstrual cycle, or if you're perimenopausal and your periods are starting to become irregular. The chronic stress or the dysregulated state of our nervous system will affect the balance between estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, and the cycles can become erratic. They can stop altogether. You might become estrogen dominant, where there's now a lot more bleeding and not as much of the progesterone in the luteal cycle. And that can cause a whole other list of symptoms with regard to those reproductive hormones. Same thing for men. If men are in a chronic state, their testosterone tends to drop, and that can create a whole level of symptoms: fatigue, depression, anxiety, low sex drive. Muscle mass tends to change over time if it's chronic stress. And all sorts of other problems too. So, and also just from a fertility procreation perspective, if you're under chronic stress, in a dysregulated state, that will diminish your your chances of fertility and creating baby. So and then to continue on with thyroid and our adrenal hormones. I mean, obviously chronic stress can cause an elevated chronic level of cortisol, epinephrine, or adrenaline. And that over time can break down the body. It breaks down our skin, our joints. It interferes with our hormone balance. It can interfere with our immune system. It can actually cause physical and structural and functional changes to the brain, and so forth. And that actually increases our risk of disease, illness, cell changes, and so forth. Rest, sleep, the list continues. So our endocrine system is profoundly affected by stress, but in the opposite, or the flip side, is if we are bringing ourselves back to a regulated state, bringing ourselves back to that calm state when we're feeling overly stressed. Stress is inevitable. So if we can have assert some sort of control when it comes to how we react or how long we react, if we can focus on ways to bring ourselves back to that grounded parasympathetic state, our hormones actually profoundly benefit from that, and they go back to their normal state of secretion and flow throughout the body. And I touched on this just a moment ago. Our immune system, if we are in a chronically stressed, nervous system dysregulated state, then our immune system, temporarily, it actually increases our immune system, but over time it suppresses it, and it makes us more prone to changes, not just respiratory changes or maybe getting sick with certain infections, but it also changes the actual functioning and structure of each cell, so that the cell, if you're stressed, all of your cells are stressed too. So each cell starts to change and it becomes different and it looks differentiated and it starts to function in an abnormal, rogue kind of way. And that increases a whole list of symptoms for the body. Autoimmune is another thing that chronic stress can be emotional stress, chemical stress, physical stress, dietary stress, medication stress, alcohol stress, drug stress, all sorts of other reasons for being stressed. And that will affect the immune system and lead to autoimmune disorders, or just getting more diseases and illnesses. This conversation could go on a really long time because there's so many other different body systems. We've got our musculoskeletal, we've got our skin, and lots of other systems too. So our nervous system, again, just to recap, our nervous system and our body wants to be safe. It wants to feel grounded and regulated, and that sense of security, so that it can do its job well. It can heal, it can repair, it can feed you with the nutrients that you're giving it, but also nourish itself from within. So the nervous system really does require all the components of your body, all of the instruments, all of your organs and organ systems to work together to create incredible, beautiful harmony and resonance throughout the body. Because when that is more of a normal state, then I shouldn't say normal state, when that is actually more, when you're able to bring your nervous system back into more regulation and less of the dysregulation. And the key here is catching it when you find yourself overly stressed for too long or overreacting for too long. You have that capability of bringing it back into regulation through breathing, through meditation, through mindfulness practices, through exercise, through going outside, calling somebody, connecting with somebody, giving somebody a hug, hugging a pet, eating nourishing foods, doing all the things that you can, tuning out from social media, reading a book, getting back to the basics. When you can do that over and over and over and over again repeatedly, your body becomes stronger, your nervous system becomes stronger, and your entire body becomes stronger as well. And it allows your body to heal that much faster. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to this channel, share this video with a friend, share this video with anybody who needs to hear this, and we'll see you next time.